Let's break the political talk show mold. Anything worth doing is hard, and that includes being a good citizen. Our mission is to help you be that better citizen by letting you hear about stuff you might not know, which will make everyone think you're so smart, or by giving you a chance to listen to interviews and debates on a wide variety of subjects that might actually allow you to form new opinions in the privacy of your own mind. I'm Justin Oldham, and you are listening to the Politics and Patriotism Show here on the Stitcher Smart Radio Network. Good morning, good evening, wherever you are, and welcome to another presidential edition of the Politics and Patriotism Show. Today we're going to be taking a look at the second term agenda of President Barack Obama. He recently got himself sworn in for round 2 of what promises to be a very eventful 4 years. When we come back from a short break, I'm going to be talking to show contributor Courtney Herring, and we're going to break this down one piece at a time. We're going to start with the social media landscape and what we saw and what we didn't see, and then we're going to move into the president's speech, and then I'm going to finish the program today by asking her what she most wants from this president by the end of his term. Hello, Courtney. How are you?
I'm doing excellent. How are you, Justin?
I'm staying out of trouble for the moment, but the president's term is not over with yet, so I'm sure I have plenty of chances to get myself into hot water with somebody.
Same here.
Okay, so now, you can't please everybody all the time, and apparently this is very true for our social media today. Let's start with that, and let's start with the rumor I heard that Twitter crashed and burned during the inauguration.
Yeah, I mean, even though the size and the scale of the inauguration was sort of lessened with how much they spent, it increased in the social media activity. So I did read that somewhere as well, and according to some estimates, there are about 1.1 million inauguration-related tweets sent out during the ceremony, and that's up from just 82,000 in 2009. So we're seeing a huge proliferation of social media being used to document history as it happens.
One of the things I find so fascinating about this is that you've got whole companies out there that make their living by data mining. They suck up all those tweets and Facebook posts and run them through their sophisticated computer programs and then turn around and sell that information to their clients to say, this is what everybody was talking about when, where, how, and why.
That's right. And also not only data mining, but branding, right? And we're seeing, speaking of data mining, we're seeing that the federal government is becoming more active on social media and on Twitter. There were actually a couple tweets from the First Lady of the United States Twitter handle saying that she was honored and blessed to be joined by so many of her fellow Americans to watch the inauguration, and that she was blessed to be able to dance with the love of her life at the inauguration ceremony or the inauguration ball. We're volunteering up a lot of information for other companies to use, and not only to data mine, just to have, databases, just to have them, libraries of them, but also to track our trends, right? To track the things that we're talking about, to track the things that matter to us, to track the things that we're buying, the things that we're doing. So all of this is important. All of this activity is important. It's not just, 1.1 million tweets being sent out into the ether to not be seen any longer or to not measure their effects. Their effects are being measured by people who really find media effects to be important, and it'll be interesting to see what happens and what type of information comes out of this data.
Now, you mentioned the effects of the media, and the most profound effect that I noticed during this inauguration was a lack of mention. Now, the last go-around, social media was just coming into its own, and that really was 2008 was really the first time that social media was there to document the whole inauguration process, and every single news network was talking about it. Bloomberg, Fox News, CNN, ABC, NBC, they were all yakking about it at some point. This time around, you turn on the TV and the radio, and there's barely a mention of it. This stuff has now become so common that it didn't even merit the time to talk about it.
Yeah, and in a way, that's true. It's sort of become the tapestry, the background, to our lives. You know, it's almost habit, for us to pick up our smartphones or our tablets or even our laptops and start tweeting away or start Facebooking and really commenting, on things as they happen. I know, a big thing right now on Twitter is for people all over the world to watch TV together, you know, and to tweet through the episodes. So the same thing happened throughout the inauguration. Um, and but I saw a piece on CNN and I saw a little blurb on CNN where they were doing this sort of, this campaign, through Instagram saying, hey, you may not be able to witness the inauguration here in Washington, D.C., but we know that a lot of people are watching the inauguration with friends, with family, even by themselves, and so they wanted, their viewers to send in their Instagram pictures, to be featured on the CNN News, website, and also the television program itself. And to just situate this in, the context of how short of a time this type of technology, has really blossomed. Back in 2008, 2009, during the first inauguration of President Obama, something like Instagram did not exist, and people were still documenting, this monumentous event, uh, through through their smartphones and things like that. They just didn't have, a place in social media to put it all. Now there's Instagram, right? You upload your pictures and you share them with so many people, and now Instagram has upwards about 40 million photos uploaded every single day. And so they were asking their viewers to participate in that way to sort of crowdsource, history in the making without having to pay the money or to hire someone to actually go out and do it. So really, we're doing their jobs for them, if you will.
The thing that's so stunning to me is that such a large number of people surrendered such a tremendous amount of intellectual property willingly.
Yeah, I mean, it's really, you don't have to pull anybody's teeth, you don't have to beg them, you don't have to plead. It's just something that we have a desire to do. We have a desire to share, what we know with others, that know us or may not even know us, And I think a little bit of it has to do with a little, having, a little. It's a bit of an ego stroke to have somebody to like your Facebook post, to like that witty saying that you posted, or to retweet something that you tweeted. And so I think, it's sort of that fame, that accessibility, that possibility of fame that sort of channels people, and encourages people to offer up this information so voluntarily.
How much of that has something to do with the fact that people just don't value their privacy today?
Oh, it has a lot to do with it. I mean, we talked in a prior show about, you know, about privacy and how, that the nature of that is changing. And we talked about that in a more of a criminal justice context, but really now, my generation, it's almost privacy in the sense that your generation and generations before you have known it no longer exists. I mean, everything is digitized, right? And so, we're encouraged to even, upon graduating from high school, graduating from college, entering the job market, and trying to secure spots at the top universities to, set up Google alerts and, to know when your name is posted on Google so you can clean up or preserve your internet image, right? Because your internet image is almost as important as your personal reputation among other people that know you. So it's really becoming something that is almost non-existent, I would say, in the ways that we've once known it.
I'm going to take a quick commercial break to pay some bills, and when we come back, I want to turn the spotlight on the president's speech, because this was a first in terms of tone and context. So we'll be right back.
I'm Luke Herbert, and this program is supported by SpaceLinkRadio.com.
Okay, so we heard the president say things in his inaugural address that no president has said before. So what did that look like, and what did that sound like to somebody of your generation?
Well, in 2009, in 2008, during his campaign, President Obama really ran and won off of the concept and the idea of hope. Offering this high, campy rhetoric, saying that we can do it. Yes, we can, and yes, we did. Okay, by electing him, we did what we set out to do. But in 2013, it seems as if the sentiment has changed. It seemed as if the president sort of has become almost a veteran, I would say, in among the politics in Washington. He kind of knows the ways that things work. He's not as naive. He's not as unrealistic as he probably once was when he first took the office of the president. See? And so his speech really, for me, it highlighted a few things. The importance of unity, the importance of sort of staying true to our founding documents, namely the Declaration of Independence and the idea that every person has the unalienable right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And also he sort of calls us to task for trying to make this country, society, a better one, right? So whereas in 2009 we heard the hopefulness, in 2013 we hear, hey, we're doing okay, but we're divided and we need to become more united. We need to become less partisan. He even mentioned something about that explicitly in his speech. And we also need to fight for the rights of those who are marginalized in this society. And that was really, really huge for this speech. So he really calls us to task to sort of ensure that we act as a community in these United States.
There was one thing about this speech that I was sympathetic towards in particular, and I say this both as a historian and as a political scientist. Mr. Obama's opponents are going to have a lot to say about the fact that his inauguration also happened to coincide with the Martin Luther King holiday. And yeah, okay, I get that. But the thing is, there is no politician, living or dead, who would fail to capitalize on that. But I would also like to point out that any politician, no matter who they are, period, when it's your inauguration day and it happens to be MLK Day, you automatically walk out onto that stage with an additional 5,000-ton weight on your back, whether you want it or not.
Absolutely. Absolutely. He had the responsibility of doing good by Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s name, for a myriad of reasons that we don't even have to get into here. That's another.
Well, he was damned if he didn't, damned if he didn't. If he had said nothing, then he would have been pilloried for it. If he said too much, he would have been pilloried for it.
Right. And I think that he did a pretty good job of sort of weaving the tenets of Dr. King into his speech. He said once before, what I really liked about it was that he's a really great rhetorician. And he weaves some themes in and out of the speech pretty flawlessly. And one of them was, he said that for 200 years we have sort of upheld this creed of freedom in this country. And he said through the blood drawn by lash and blood drawn by sword. And so he really mentioned the struggle of slavery, the dark past of this country. And then he goes on later to say in the speech that he says, after naming the different right struggles of our forebears, Seneca Falls, which was known for women's rights, Selma, of course, the march toward from Selma to Birmingham, and Stonewall, which was also very a pinnacle for gay rights. He says, just as it guided all those men and women, sung and unsung, who left footprints among this great mall, to hear a preacher say that we cannot walk alone, to hear a king proclaim that our individual freedom is inextricably bound to the freedom of every soul on earth. So he really explicitly mentions King, which he had a responsibility to do, but he doesn't overdo it. Like I said, he weaves the ideas that Dr. King championed very well throughout this speech. I would say he doesn't misappropriate, I think, Dr. King's legacy, in my opinion.
It will be interesting to see how so much of what he said comes to pass or does not come to pass in the course of his term. Now, ultimately, as I listened to that speech and then went back and replayed the YouTube video of it, the uh, the political scientist in me heard a leader who is paying his bills. He's got a very large constituency that he owes a lot. And now, here in his second term, he's really only got a 2-year game clock. And he's not going to be able to give everything that he has promised. And there was a lot of implication in that speech. And he's going to have to pick and choose his battles. And so the people that walk away from this speech feeling like, yeah, he's pulling for us, I think they really need to take that with a grain of salt, and they need to be ready for some disappointment.
Absolutely. As I was listening to the speech, but even more so as I was reading through the text of the speech, I saw sort of a cornucopia of issues that, he brought up that we need to tackle as a country. Among them, climate change, immigration reform, education reform, um, LGBT rights, poverty, unemployment, voting rights, uh, education reform. I don't know if I've already mentioned education before, but uh, so all of these things, it makes you, again, he's of that hope and change sort of school of thought. So it makes us hopeful that yes, we have a president who sees these social ills and these struggles that we have as a society and as a nation. But on the other hand, you're right, we also have to be very, very realistic as to what this second term is going to look like for him. His first term, he spent a lot of time and a lot of energy fighting for healthcare reform. That almost didn't happen, but it did through Supreme Court rule. So I just wonder what are these issues that he's going to tackle, because you're right, he only has so much time. And I think that he can become a little more gutsy and a little more aggressive this term, because I mean, this is it. He doesn't have another office to run for. This is the highest office, and he doesn't have another term. So I think that he may have been reserving some of these issues, some of these more tough issues. And after the whole fallout with the healthcare reform, I don't know what could be tougher than that. But some of these tough issues for his second term, so he can actually go to work. You know.
Okay, well, let's us go to work and pay some bills one more time, and when we come back on the other side of this commercial break, I'm going to ask you, what do you want most from this president in his remaining years? What do you want him to put on his game clock, and what do you want him to most succeed at?
This program is brought to you by ShadowFusionBooks.com.
Okay, so now sounds like a wish list, and that's probably what it is. But be pragmatic, be practical, realizing that the man's got 2 years left on his game clock, and anything he tries for, he may not succeed because opposition Congresses throughout history are notorious for digging in against lame duck presidents, and this happens to Democrats and Republicans alike. So what do you most want from this president during his remaining period of powerfulness?
Well, I mean, if Congress is if it's common for Congress to sort of dig in on a lame duck president, I don't know how much more they can dig in. I mean, these last 4 years were pretty rough for President Obama, so I don't know how much worse it can get, but I'm sure it can get worse. But to answer your question, I think I have a wish list of three things, and these three things are enough to make up a whole term's worth of work. But I do hope that he'll at least address one of these three things on my wish list. The first one being immigration reform. I think I think in his inaugural speech, the foundational principle that he built upon was the idea that makes this country exceptional. The idea that American citizens have the rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That's something that's spelled out in the Declaration of Independence. But for certain people, those rights are not afforded to them because the pathway to citizenship is so long and arduous. And so among those are immigrants. And when we say immigrants, automatically it connotes for a lot of us, people who are from Mexico, Mexicans, and coming up from south of the border, and trying to sort of outwit border patrol and things like that. And while yes, I do believe that we need to secure our borders, we also need to offer a reasonable, doable pathway to citizenship for those who do want to attain the American dream and who are hardworking and who would serve this country very, very well. The second thing I hope that he addresses is the prison industrial complex. Okay. We are a country that imprisons more of its citizens than any other developed country in this world. Okay. And we're still building prisons. And I think that it's problematic that we have not found a way to sort of abstain from so many people being imprisoned. And a lot of these people are in prison for nonviolent crimes. And I think that it's important to address the prison industrial complex because of an issue that is so close and so near and dear to my heart, which is, the plight of the African American man, right? There are more African American men and men of color in jail than there are in college. Okay. And so not to mention the economic drain that it is upon all of us taxpayers. Okay. I'm sure for the taxpayers in California, I have got to be sick and tired of subsidizing these prisons and these prisoners. And so I think that it's important for him to sort of address the prison industrial complex, address the minimum mandatory laws for drugs, and to just really stop this sort of prison pipeline that we have in this country. I think is really, really problematic. Now, the third and final thing I hope he addresses is climate change. And he does mention this explicitly in his speech. And a lot of people are predicting that this is the next thing that he's going to address. This is what his legacy that he's going to leave in his next term. And I do think that we do need to address climate change, innovation, using more natural resources for power, and becoming less of a detriment to Mother Earth than we already are. And he says, he says that it's the planet has been given to us. The care of it has been given to us by God. And, he says we will respond to the threat of climate change, knowing that the failure to do so could betray our children and our future generations. And some still deny the overwhelming judgment of science, but none can avoid the devastating impact of raging fires and crippling drought and more powerful storms. And we saw that with Sandy. We saw that with Hurricane Katrina. We saw that with Hurricane Isaac. We saw that with, all of these wildfires happening in Middle America. So I do hope that he comes up with, he and his advisors come up with a doable, reasonable plan to sort of make more sustainable energy and for us to be less of a detriment to our Earth, because, this is the only one that we have. And I think it's important that we try to preserve as much of it as possible.
That is a very laudable wish list, to be sure, but as much as I would love to debate the merits of all that with you, we are coming to the end of the program, but just on the off chance that this episode does find its way onto somebody's iPod in the White House, we'll just have to leave it where it is, because that's a pretty good encapsulation of an agenda if I have ever heard one. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you like what you heard here today, please feel free to find us online at politicsandpatriotism.com. Have a look at our brand new, freshly updated website. And if you would like to contact any of us here at the show, click on that contributors button, scroll down and find my name or Courtney or anybody else who works around here, and click again and start typing, and we'll get back to you just as soon as we can. I'd like to point out that all of our past episodes are available through the website from the RSS feed, or for those of you who like a more retail approach to these things, you can get them all free from the iTunes store. We tried marking them down beyond that, but they said free is free, so we're just going to have to live with that. And those of you with smartphones and tablets can go to Stitcher.com, and thanks to the nice people at the Stitcher Smart Radio Network, they have a free app for you to download, which will allow you to dial in our past episodes whenever and wherever you please on this green earth. So thank you for your time, and have a good day.